Hello friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck Roll. Alright, I got a little project to do around the house today. This is actually something that used to be my dad's responsibility, but now that he's passed away, it kind of falls to me. Every year for basically as long as I can remember, my mom has created a Christmas letter for all our friends and family come Christmas time. And she starts thinking about it about this time of year. Truth is, she's been talking about it now for about a month now. And since I'm the one who has to do it, we're going to kind of go through the process today. Now, she's already written the letter to me, and there's actually kind of a funny story behind this, because when she first started talking to me about it, she said, you know, I'm probably not going to end up writing a whole letter this year because, you know, just not a lot has changed, and there's not a whole lot of information from last year. So she was just thinking maybe doing a little note card and then maybe a photo. And I think she wanted to use the photo that she shot of myself and my sister when I visited her in April, and so we've already put that photo aside and sent it to her, and she's going to get that made into photos which she'll insert into the Christmas letter. But like I said, her original thought was it's just probably going to be a little note card because there wasn't that much that had changed. Well, it turns out that she sat down and wrote her draft of her Christmas letter, and there was more than enough for a letter. So we're back in letter mode. She selected some nice Christmas stationery with a kind of a Christmassy boundary, and today we're going to lay it out and get the Christmas letter formatted and printed onto the page. So let me show you what we got to work with. So to begin with, my mom has sent me some special Christmas paper that she wants me to use. She's chosen this one, and this is going to be kind of a nice thing. It's got a nice little border all the way around the edges, and then this kind of Christmassy candle thing in the bottom right hand corner. This is going to be a little bit easier, I think, than the one I worked with last year, because the one I worked with last year had kind of an ivy theme, like a Christmas holly and that kind of stuff all around the borders, and it wasn't kind of a consistent border like this is. It kind of, some of the ivy branches stuck out a little bit, and so you really had to kind of do a lot of formatting to make it fit. And this one's going to be a little bit easier because really all I got to do is work around this. Now, as I said before, her initial concern was that there just wasn't going to be enough for a letter. Well, it turns out that what she wrote actually had so much information in it that it's actually going to take two sides. We were originally talking about whether she wanted me to, if she wanted to buy some more stationery, because she wants to send out about 50 copies of this, and there's about 50 sheets here. So she was either going to need to send me another copy of this stationery, another packet of it, or as she decided, we're just going to print on the back. So we'll get this done today. And there's actually kind of another factor that's going to change on this from this year versus last year, and I'll show you what that is. In the past couple years when I've done this, I haven't had a printer of my own. I had one at home in California, but I never really used it that much. And it turns out a lot of times these inkjet printers, if you don't use them very much, the head gets plugged up with ink and then you're stuck. You can never get it cleaned off again. And I've gone through so many printers that way that, when I came to Texas, I just said, you know what, I don't really need one. But a few months ago when I came home from California, I had all those great photos, and I figured, you know what, I want to be able to have the option to scan them. So I actually went out and bought a scanner for the purpose of doing that. But you don't buy just standalone scanners anymore. They come with a printer. So I am going to actually be able to print these out here and do it at my house, and that's going to save a little bit of time and a little bit of money, because in the past I've been going to the FedEx Kinko's office and printing out there, and that gets a little pricey. You're talking 50 pages, you're talking 10 or 15 bucks. So at this point I have the ability to do it on my own, and that is what our task is for today. Now, this is actually the raw text of the letter, and it's actually gone back and forth between her and I a couple times, because she wrote it, emailed it to me. I kind of wordsmithed it and cleaned it up a little bit and made things flow a little better and added a few details that she forgot. Then I sent it back to her, and she checked my work and made a couple of things made a couple of comments of things that that she wanted to add that she'd forgotten about the first time. And now this is sort of the final text of the letter. This thing is ready to go now, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna insert it into a program called Microsoft Publisher that I have. It's a really cool, powerful program that will allow me to format this and get this all laid out so it looks really nice. Pick a font and basically get it set up so that we can print it out. So next thing I'm gonna do is import this into Publisher. So I've imported the document now into Publisher. I have it all in there, basically laid out the way I want it to do. Since we are going to be printing it onto this page right here, when there's a 1-inch border all the way around the edge, I've defined a 1-inch margin for this document. And I've actually formatted the screen right now so the image on the screen is roughly the same size as the page, because what I want to do is I got to move this text out of the way so that I'm not printing over the top of this, and we may end up having to rearrange things a little bit when I rescale things to make that happen. Now on the second page, since that's just going to be on the back of this and there's no real defined margins that have to be that I have to worry about, I've just defined a 1/2-inch margin around there, and we're going to get the rest of the document to fit onto the second page in that way. So next thing I got to do is line this thing up and get onto page 1 there and try and move this text out of the way so that we don't end up printing over the top of that. Alright, now I've basically carriage returned all the text around here now so that it will avoid this little part of the page. Next thing I need to do is just print out a test page, and then I'm going to lay the test page over this, hold it up to a light, and just make sure we're still not printing where we don't want to be printing. So that's the next step. I'm going to print a copy of this page, and let's take a look at it. Alright, it's taken me a couple of attempts to get this just right, but I think I've got the text now kind of cut out over here so that it won't overwrite what's going on here. So at this point we've got the layout pretty much set up. I think what I want to do, since this has sort of been my example sheet of paper and this one's gotten a little bit crumpled a little bit, I'm actually going to print a test copy out on this, and let's see what this looks like. Alright, good. I think that looks great. All of the text is staying away from the borders. All of the text is staying away from the image around the candle, and I think that looks perfect just the way it is. So I'm going to go and print the rest of these things out, and we're going to print both sides of it. I can just do the second side really easily because I don't have to worry about borders or anything that I got to avoid, so that'll just print out real nice. So we're going to get this done. I think actually what I want to do is put a little something down here that says over so people know to flip the document over and look at the other side, because I don't want them only getting half the message. Now I knew this was possibly going to come up. When you buy a printer, they do generally come with ink cartridges, but they usually come with like a little starter cartridge. It doesn't have a whole bunch of ink in it. And I knew that I was getting close to having to replace several of the cartridges, so I actually went out to Walmart this morning and picked up some new replacement toner cartridges, and I got kind of through halfway printing the first page, and actually most of the way through the front page, and it stopped because I'm out of ink. So I'm going to replace a couple of ink cartridges here. It looks like I had to replace the black one and the magenta one, and looks like we'll be doing the yellow and cyan pretty quick. Like I said, I bought a full set of the cartridges, but I'm going to kind of wait until it says, yeah, you absolutely got to replace this, because I don't want to throw away a cartridge that's still got a little bit of toner in it. So let's pick up with that, and then we'll continue on our printing. And this is actually pretty easy. You just lift off the lid. There's the toner cartridges there. I'm going to pull out, it said the black and the cyan, so that's going to be this one, and then we'll be ready to replace the yellow and the magenta at some point. But I'm going to get those replaced right now. We'll continue our printing job. Alright, so I got the black and the cyan reinstalled, and about the point I was starting to initialize it, I looked at it and said, you really ought to replace the magenta one too. So I've replaced this cartridge, and this cartridge, and right now the yellow and the photo black, they still have a little bit of ink on them, or in them, so we're gonna delay reinstalling them or getting installed new ones in there until they actually need it. But now it's kind of going through an initialization phase, and that takes a couple of minutes, and once that's done we'll continue on with our printing. Okay, so I've finished up this project and put all of the Christmas letters in the same packaging it came with. I'm going to ship it off to my mom right now. It was interesting actually when I was printing them out. I printed page 1 first and then page 2 second. My printer is actually capable of printing on both sides at the same time, but it really slows down the process. So I elected to do 40 copies of page 1 and then flip the pages over manually and do 40 copies of page 2. Now it turned out when I was examining them after I printed them, it turned out looks like at one point 2 pages went through at the same time, and so there's one page that didn't get anything printed on it. I decided because of that to kind of look at every one of the documents just to make sure they both had a front and a back, and turned out that was the only one that got missed, but I just reprinted on that one and we're good to go. So next step is to drop this in the mail, get this sent off to my mom. She can add her photo if she's going to do that, package them up and get them out. So this is the end of this project. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Good night.